Sixth graders, this is to help you with question 8 on CR 25. Brennan is taking a trip to a soccer game. He drove 81 miles in 1.5 hours. He drove the remaining 3 2/5 hours at a rate of 11 miles per hour faster than the first rate. So we got to figure out his first rate, and then we'll know he's going 11 miles per hour faster than that. Wow. How many miles did Brennan drive during his trip? Okay. Distance equals rate times time. So the first thing I'm going to do is find his rate for the first 1.5 hours. So this is the first part of the trip. I have to figure out his rate so that I can use that to help me with the second part of the trip. So his distance is 81 miles. We don't know the rate, but we know he travels that in 1.5 hours. All right. So to get the rate, I have to divide both sides by 1 1/2. Some of you like decimals. I'm going to leave this in as a fraction. This is 81 divided by, that's what that means, 1 1/2. So that's 81 divided by 1 1/2. 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 more is 3. That's 3/2. Then I'm going to keep, change, flip. So that's 81 times 2 over 3. 81 is the same as 81 over 1. I can choose to multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom if I want. 81 times 2. 162. Over 1 times 3 is 3, so that's 162 divided by 3. 3 goes into 16 5 times. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract off. You get a 1. Drag down that 2. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So that means 54 miles per hour is our rate for the first part of the trip. He drove the remaining 3.5 hours at 11 miles per hour faster than the first rate. So for the second part of trip, to calculate the rate for the second part of the trip, you have to take 54 miles per hour and add on 11 miles per hour because he went 11 miles per hour faster. So 4 and 1 is 5, 5 and 1 is 6. He must have maybe been on the thruway at that point where you can travel 65 miles per hour. So he took that rate, 65 miles per hour, and he traveled for 3.5 hours at that rate. So distance equals 65. I'm doing distance equals rate times time again. 65 times 3 and, excuse me, 2/5. Alrighty. So now I'm just going to multiply these. Going to change this to an improper. 5 times 3 is 15 and 2 more is 17/5. I have 65, which is the same as 65 over 1 times 17/5. I could multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. However, excuse me, to make that multiplication a little easier, I can say 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 65 13 times. Then multiply straight across the top. So I have to do 17 times 13. 7 times 3 is 21. Put down a 1, carry 2. 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 more is 5. 0. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Add those together. 1, 5 and 7 is 12. 1 and 1 is 2. So he traveled 221 miles for the second part of his trip. We're still not done. How many miles did he drive altogether? So if you take the 81 miles for the first part of the trip, so your total distance, you have to take your 81 miles for the first part of the trip and add to that 221 miles for the second part of the trip. So if I add those together, 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 8 is 10. Put down a 0, carry 1. 1 and 2 is 3. Looks to me like that trip was 302 miles. Wowza, that's quite the problem. I hope that helps.